Hey coaches, for generations, we've pretty much treated wrestling training like an art. We coach by feel, by what's always been done. But what if that gut feeling, that whole push through the pain mentality, is the very thing that's breaking our athletes? Well, today, we're going to tear up that old playbook. We're diving into a new blueprint for wrestling strength, one that's built on hard science, not just tradition.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start by poking at that whole art of coaching idea and figure out the real biological enemy that's killing our performance. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, looking at how to train different muscle fibers. I'll even introduce you to a powerful method called statodynamics. And we'll wrap it all up with a pre-competition blueprint you can literally put into practice.
All right, first up, art versus science. Look, as coaches, we kind of live in two different worlds. There's the one we see right there on the mat, the technique, the heart, the effort. But then there's this other world, what's happening inside the body, on a cellular level. And understanding that world, well, that's the key to unlocking some serious potential.
This quote, right here, it nails it. The old way of coaching is just watching what seems to work and then doing it again. It's just observation. But science gives us an actual physiological model, a blueprint of our athlete. And with that blueprint, we can stop just copying what's been done before. We can start inventing what should be done. Because for the first time, we actually get the why behind it all.
Think about it. For decades, our sport's been built on one core idea. You've forged champions in the fire of these absolutely brutal workouts. We've all said it, right? Push through the burn. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. We've been led to believe that this acid bath we put our athletes through is what builds mental toughness and physical greatness. But here's the question that changes everything. What if that burn we've been chasing isn't a badge of honor? What if that extreme fatigue is literally the sound of the muscle fibers we're trying to build being eaten away?
Okay, so let's name the real enemy in the room. To solve this whole problem, we've got to look inside the muscle cell and figure out what's really causing all that fatigue and damage when the work gets intense.
And here is the absolute game changer. For years, we've blamed lactic acid for everything, but the science is clear. Lactate is actually fuel for the muscle. The real villain, the thing we need to worry about, is the flood of hydrogen ions, the H+, that get dumped into the muscle during intense work. These are what make the muscle acidic and cause all that destruction.
And this shows you exactly how that damage happens. It's a chain reaction. First, the hydrogen ions build up. This acid causes these little digestive sacs in the cell, called lysosomes, to swell up and pop. When they burst, they release enzymes that just start eating everything around them. They chew up the myofibrils that give us strength and the mitochondria that give us endurance. So that super acidic gut check workout, it's literally your body destroying itself from the inside out. So how in the world do we build strength without causing all this damage? Well, the answer is realizing that our muscles have two totally different kinds of engines. And you just can't train a V8 dragster the same way you train a fuel-efficient hybrid. They need completely different game plans.
Just look at this breakdown. You've got your glycolytic fibers, your fast twitch. They're for pure explosion and power. They also produce a ton of those nasty hydrogen ions, and they burn out in less than a minute. Then you've got your oxidative fibers, your slow twitch. These are built for endurance. They are packed with mitochondria, which actually use hydrogen ions as fuel. You see it right? One fiber creates the acid problem, the other is literally designed to solve it.
And in our sport, you have to have both. You need that explosive shot from your glycolytic fibers for sure, but you also need that relentless, can't-be-moved strength from your oxidative fibers to control a guy for an entire match. The goal isn't to pick one over the other. It's to develop each one to its absolute maximum potential.
Okay, so this brings us to the key. This is what unlocks that endurance engine. It's a method specifically made to strengthen those oxidative fibers, the ones that traditional strength training just completely misses. It's called statodynamics.
So here's the basic idea. Statodynamic exercises are done with zero relaxation. By keeping constant tension on the muscle, you temporarily squeeze off the blood flow and the oxygen supply. This forces those oxygen-loving oxidative fibers to work in a way they're not used to. It creates this perfect local stimulus for them to grow, but without flooding the whole body with destructive acid. And you can see just how different these approaches are. For your explosive fibers, it's what we know. Heavy weights, go to failure, then take a nice long rest. But for the oxidative fibers, it's the opposite. Lighter weights, constant tension until you feel that deep burn, and then really short active rests. Two different fibers, two totally different ways to train. Now you have to do this right. Execution is everything. There can be absolutely no relaxation during the set.
None. You're not chasing failure, you are hunting for a very specific, deep, burning pain. That pain is your signal. It should show up somewhere between 30 and 45 seconds in. The second you feel it, the set is over. You've gotten the stimulus. That's it. Then you rest and
So why does this matter so much? Because when you finally strengthen these deep, stabilizing, oxidative fibers, you don't just build relentless match strength, you build incredible resilience. I mean, athletes using this method see a huge drop in those nagging injuries like growing pulls, because the muscles that are supposed to be stabilizing the joints are finally strong enough to do their job.
All right, let's take all this science and put it where it counts, on the mat. How do we actually use this stuff in those critical weeks before a big tournament?
Okay, here's a sample blueprint. Notice a couple of key things here. The mornings are all about technique, but the golden rule is to keep the acidification low. No long, hard grinds. The afternoons are for strength, rotating through muscle groups using that statodynamic method. And you see as the week goes on, the strength work tapers off so the body can fully recover.
Now, I want you to remember one number from this whole thing. If you remember nothing else, remember this one, 12. For the final 12 days before your most important competition, you have to stop all training that is destructive. All of it.
And here's the science behind that number. A hard 5-minute sparring session creates a massive acid bath and literally damages muscle tissue. And get this, it takes over 2 weeks for those tiny structures to fully repair. So if your guys are grinding it out in those final 12 days, you are sending a weaker athlete to the tournament. The fix is simple. Switch to short, intense, 2-minute goes. You get the tactical work in, but you preserve the strength they've spent all season building.
So in the end, this whole approach forces us, as coaches, to ask a really tough question. Are we just clinging to old traditions that value suffering more than science? Because by understanding the why, the physiology, we can finally stop confusing destruction with development. And we can start building athletes who aren't just tough, but are truly scientifically unbreakable.